Live at the 2026 Ingles SoCon Basketball Championships, it is the number 6 seed Furman Paladins taking on the number 1 seed ETSU Buccaneers, as this is our college game day version of SoCon Fast Break. Richmond Weaver and Darren Angel, and now we get to bring in Mr. Dave Friedman, who knows a lot about the Southern Conference as the Southern Conference Associate Commissioner, Brand Strategy and Broadcast. That's a mouthful, so let us know exactly what that role means.
I don't have a clue. I mean, those are a lot of words, but what they mean is kind of anybody's guess.
Because you're a jack of all trades. Yeah. You do so much.
Or none. I mean, depends what day it is, right? But yeah, I mean, being around the basketball programs and being around the conference, being around the decision makers and the coaches is a lot of fun, and I'm very fortunate to be able to see a lot of basketball and can't wait for tonight's game.
That's right. And you've been up close and personal for a lot of these teams, calling some of the games, and now here in Asheville, this is a unique matchup with the 1 and the 6 seed, because I think a 6 seed, it might not be indicative as far as what Furman really is. I know you are what you are. I do get that, but they had some injuries throughout the season, and I think this is a big-time matchup between two schools that are really good.
Yeah, I mean, look at the point spread. It's essentially a pick'em game, and like I think if anyone's watched college basketball, particularly the SoCon this year, you know that like these teams are pretty evenly matched. It should be a competitive game. The whole tournament has been one tight game after another. You can make a value judgment about what that says, but the bottom line is there are 6 or 7 or 8 teams kind of, sort of, generally in the same neighborhood. And for the fans, that's great.
It is.
And for TV, that's great. Yes. And whether these teams have a great chance to upset somebody next week or not, it's totally irrelevant. What counts is who gets to put on a ring like that one, who gets to cut down the nets, and this is where dreams are made.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, so we got to show the ring here. Mr. Darren Angel, who was an assistant coach for Furman in that 2022-23 championship season, and would go on to beat Virginia in the NCAA tournament. That is a paperweight.
It is.
That is huge.
I've only worn it, I think, 2 or 3 times, but I figured tonight was a good night to be able to wear it and kind of help support the Furman Paladins out there. But that was a special year, special moment.
So you think that by wearing that ring, that's going to help Furman
Osmosis,
win?
That's right. Yes.
It's a proud moment for me to
Bob Ritchie's
remember.
Pretty analytics forward. I have a hard time believing he thinks that you wearing a ring is going to make a difference in the outcome of the game.
No, that might be a little too analytical, certainly.
But Dave, you've been around these coaches. They're quirky at times.
Yeah.
They will lean on any type of,
particularly in March.
That's right. Yeah. Any type of superstition. They might say they're not superstitious. They're justitious.
Yeah, no question. I mean, it's nonsense. It doesn't make any sense. There's no value to it.
That's right.
But they are all crazy.
Yes, no question about it. All right, speaking of crazy and madness, though, here in Asheville, what a great opportunity for the Southern Conference to be partnered not only with the city of Asheville, but the Asheville Sports Commission and Ingles as a title sponsor. And the great news, a new 6-year extension with ESPN. So things are just continuing to move forward and upward, so to speak, with the Southern Conference.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Asheville is a tremendous place to hold the championship because it's not far from ETSU and it's not far from Furman and it's not far from Wofford and it's not far from Western Carolina. And if we're being honest, look at some of the tournaments taking place this week and next. They're hundreds of miles away from many of the membership. Like, all of our schools can get here. All of our schools can support it. Ingles is a tremendous title sponsor right here based in Western North Carolina. The city, everyone comes together and it works. So why would you not want to continue it? You walk outside, it's 70 degrees. They're great restaurants. They're great bars. There are hotels all over the place. It's the perfect place for it.
Yeah, the weather is ridiculous right now.
Yeah, and I mean, and kind of going on that theme, speaking of what Ingles has meant to this conference, what Asheville has meant to this conference, as we're kind of transitioning into this new phase of college athletics, I think we're probably all a little bit biased, but we think that the Southern Conference is an underrated league. What are some things from a branding perspective that you guys are looking into to try to make sure that the Southern Conference is staying front of mind in being hopefully recognized as one of the better mid-major conferences in the country.
I think 700,000 people watching tonight's game on TV, and it's virtually sold out, and two teams play a really competitive, hard-nosed game probably goes a long way.
Yeah.
I mean, you can come up with every initiative known to man, and we certainly try. You want to be creative and outside the box, but what do people actually watch? They watch basketball. And today's game on big ESPN, there's a reason the game is on ESPN, because ESPN knows it's going to be a good game.
Yeah.
They know it's going to be a good environment. They know it's going to look really good, just like last year's game did. Last year's championship game attracted over 650,000 people.
Yeah.
This year's game is going to do the exact same thing. The community comes together and supports it. The schools are invested in it. That looks good. We can do all sorts of things that might go viral and might be fun, incrementally can help along the edges. But in the end, you are your product.
Yeah.
No one goes to a restaurant that has lousy food.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's a big part of it. All right. And now turning the attention also just from the growth, Tennessee Tech coming into the Southern Conference July 1st. Talk about how they're such a good fit for the Southern Conference.
Well, they're everything that our membership is. It's a good academic school. It fits geographically. They're invested athletically. It just makes sense. It adds another team closer to ETSU, closer to Chattanooga, closer to Samford. But they're not that far from Asheville.
Yeah.
And they are going through a coaching transition in basketball because the last guy wasn't good enough. And they changed football coaches a couple of years ago, and they've been really good at football. You want people that are going to put resources into it, that are going to take it seriously. They're dedicated to winning there, and they fit right in our footprint. And let's be honest, you want to play offense, not defense.
Exactly. We've been saying that for so long. I mean, that's why, again, I know aesthetically there's some guys out there that love the defensive side of things, but from that aesthetic side, you need offense. That's going to draw fans. That's going to draw the opportunity of getting more viewers.
Yeah, no question. I mean, offense is fun and everyone likes offense. I think you want to play defense to win games, but as it pertains to membership and as it pertains to initiatives, you don't want to be reactive. You want to be proactive.
Oh, yes,
Tennessee Tech is a good fit. They fit the type of things the Southern Conference is and wants to do and will be in the future. I can't wait for them to join. I wish they were here this year.
See, I'm talking basketball lingo, but you're talking about being on the offensive in 100%. Terms of big time
100%.
General views. And I
mean,
love
if
that.
your car needs an oil change, you can wait around and wait around and wait around, and you can end up with a bigger problem.
That's right.
Or you can just go get an oil change.
Yeah, no question. Okay, heading into the tournament right now, and again, ETSU and Furman matching up tonight. Have there been any surprises for you, or you think these are two of the best teams?
I don't know how there can be surprise when the teams have been evenly matched the entire year. I mean, I guess VMI going on a run and being in the championship game would have been a pretty big surprise. But when you talk about a league that is very balanced, there's not going to be one like, oh my God. I mean, if we told you at the beginning of the year it was going to be ETSU and Furman, you would have gone, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. If you said that on January 1st, you would have gone, yeah, that makes sense. Right. If you said that on February 15th, you would have said, yeah, that makes sense. Alex Wilkins is terrific. So is Cam Morris. So is Blake Barkley. Like, the two teams have really good players. The two teams have really good coaches. What a shocker. They're in the championship.
Exactly. Sometimes it is just a simple equation in how we get there.
But if it had been Kamari Holmes and Wofford, or if it had been Neely and UNC Greensboro, or if it had been Jaden Booth, like all of that would have made sense too. There's not one team that looks like they're 20 points better. And we've watched the bracket and no one's been 20 points better.
That's right. All right. Your keys to the game tonight.
I mean, you know, I work
because you've covered this conference. You've seen these teams, so I know.
I just think it comes down to toughness. I mean, look at all the box scores. The team that wins the battle of the boards tends to win these games. Like, I don't think you win these games with finesse. I think you win these games by doing all the little things. The referees have proven in this tournament they're not going to blow the whistle over the top.
That's right.
So, like, you're not going to win this game by kind of half-heartedly driving into the lane. This is a big man's game. Like, you're going to have to play hard. You're going to have to be the more physical, tougher team. That's who generally wins these games. And like, it would be surprising to me if that's not the case. Now, hey, someone can go on a heater.
Of course.
Someone can knock home 7 threes. All of those things are possible. But my guess is it's going to come down to the end, and the team that's going to grab the 50-50 ball, the team that's going to get the offensive rebound, the team that's going to tough it out usually wins.
Yeah, that's right. Well, Dave, we
don't turn the ball over.
That's right. Yes, don't turn the ball over. Yes,
so
we
sure.
do know that, and that has been Achilles' heel for Furman this season. They have
freshmen,
yes.
and freshmen turn the ball over.
That's right.
On the flip side, they have really, really talented freshmen.
They do.
I mean, if Alex Wilkins is not good, Furman can't win. But Alex Wilkins is one of the best players in the league, and he's probably going to be good.
We saw it last night. 28 points in the second half. That's all you need to say right there. He took over the game.
He is as talented as anybody in the league. But he's 18 or 19 years old, and he can sometimes do freshman things. I think one game against ETSU this year, he turned it over 11 times.
He did.
If he turns the ball over 11 times, ETSU is going to cut down the nets.
That's right. There's no question. Dave Friedman, can't thank you enough, sir.
Absolutely.
We appreciate you joining SoCon Fast Break, our version of College Game Day Live. We'll be back. Chris Smith, the president of the Asheville Sports Commission, is going to join us, and then we'll really get to breaking down this final game tonight, ETSU taking on the Furman Paladins. Stay tuned. Much more right after this. All right, we are back here at the Harris Cherokee Center, Asheville, for the 2026 SoCon Basketball Championships. And it is our pleasure now to bring in one of the guys who helped coordinate all of this, Chris Smith, president of the Asheville Sports Commission. Now, I know it's all Buncombe County, but it's a long title, so I'm just going with president of Asheville Sports Commission.
I've been called worse. We've been called worse, but fortunately not during this tournament, Richmond.
That's right.
Yes, we are here. It is championship night. I do know they're going to throw up a ball at 7 o'clock tonight, so we might as well get ready for it, and that's what we've been doing all day, all week, all year. To get us to this point. And I couldn't be more excited. We are looking at a great championship game tonight.
No doubt about it. And I think what you just said, I wanted to reiterate, because this is not something that just happens the week before the tournament. You guys have been working, and it's almost like when the tournament's over, you start preparing for the next year's tournament. So talk about just what all goes into the Sports Commission and your involvement with the Southern Conference to bring these events. And it's not just basketball. You've got the wrestling, you've got the volleyball. So there's a lot that you do with the Southern Conference.
Dabble in a lot of different things and try to get all of them right. I don't know that we always do. There are a lot of things that we can control, and there are a whole lot that we can't control. I can't tell you who's going to win the game, although I did have ETSU and Furman in the final.
Oh, so, there we go. All right. Okay.
I can tell you it's going to be a great game, and that if it's not, I'm going to get hit with false advertising, but it always is.
It is.
Richmond, we have 7 straight games now that have been decided by 7 points or less.
Wow.
So just to get to this point, we had 2 great semifinals last night.
Yes.
And we're here. But yeah, there's a lot of planning that goes into it, and this is day however many.
You can't even keep up. I know you
I do know this is Monday, though. For the first time all week, I'm caught up on knowing what day of the week is because it's championship night. So, but yeah, this is the final game, and it took a lot to get here. Early planning, getting up 6 in the morning today, which is the latest I've slept. So thank you, championship.
Wow.
There's only one game today.
That's right.
Yeah, there were
so
4 Saturday, 4
Yes.
Thursday, 4 Friday.
Yeah.
So, in no ancillary events. All the focus is on the championship game, and rightfully so. We had a lot of things earlier in the week, whether it was the Hall of Fame induction ceremony Friday night, where 6 great finalists went into the Hall of Fame, and we had our own community champion crowned in Carol Peterson, who's meant so much to this tournament. But it's the ancillary events, the downtown dribble, 1,000 kids downtown Saturday dribbling balls to the arena.
There were balls everywhere.
Oh, geez,
I almost got caught in it.
Controlled chaos, we like to call it. But I mean, it sounds scary, all those kids dribbling to the arena, but those are the things behind the scenes that people don't really see. They don't see the 138 volunteers that we have. They don't know that we went out and sold the sponsorships or we do all the local organizing. That's what we do. When it comes down to it, we do all the things that it takes to make the tournament run smoothly because we know the basketball is a great product.
Yes.
Pound for pound, I still say best conference tournament in America for the value, for the you take that footprint of the SoCon and you put it on the dartboard, you throw a bullseye, it lands in Asheville. I'll tell everybody that. We're the geographic center of the conference, and it's the right size building, and it's in the right place, close to the fan base.
Yes.
You look tonight, just driving over the mountain from East Tennessee State, you've got them coming from Johnson City or wherever they may be. We got a lot of alums here. We also have a lot of Paladin alums, and coming up an hour and 2 minutes up from Greenville.
That's right.
It's an easy commute.
Yes, and I expect we're going to see a good crowd here tonight for certain. I'm hoping we see a good crowd.
Yeah, I think we certainly will. Chris, is someone who's coached in this tournament and has had experience in other conference tournaments as well. Can you tell us a little bit of kind of the behind the scenes of what goes into this? Because I agree with you. This is one of the best conference tournaments in the country. Forget high major, mid major, low major. Asheville does such a good job, and the city just seems to come together for 4 or 5 days. And it's really enjoyable to be a part of, not only coaching, but now on the other end of it. It's just a phenomenal weekend. It's a weekend that I look forward to every year as a basketball fan. So can you tell us a little bit about how Asheville does such a good job with it and how you lead that?
Absolutely. First of all, the community buys into it. My first college basketball experience was in 1984, coming to this tournament, as a fan and seeing a double overtime game. The first game I ever saw with Gerald Wilkins goes off for 48. And then for the finals that night, sitting over here in section 206 and watching a great game and watching Skip Henderson score 50, I think, that night. So, I was hooked from day one. Hopefully those kids in Downtown Dribble are hooked. It's sponsored by Champion Credit Union. Jake Robinson, the president and CEO of Champion Credit Union, played at Western Carolina and now sponsors that. So it tells you how much it means to him. Evangelina Paulk from right down the street, 2 miles away at Asheville High, used to come to the Downtown Dribble. Went to Asheville High, went to Wofford, was the SoCon Player of the Year last year before transferring to Iowa State, because that happens these days, right?
That's a new world of college athletics.
But all of that goes in. It's the building memories and the creating memories with the kids and getting them to become lifelong fans. But it's the community buying in. You see the street pole banners when you come in. You see the coasters and the clings on the windows. But it means a lot. It's a $10 million economic impact to this community at a time of year. We're known for tourism, but not this time of year.
Yeah.
When it's stick season and it's a little bit cooler. Great weather this week.
Oh, I know.
My gosh. But to put it to you this way, there is a business on the back right behind us here, about 500 yards as the crow flies. It is open one Sunday out of the year. It was yesterday.
Wow.
They're closed 51 Sundays out of the year. That's what this tournament means to this community.
Yeah, no question about it. And that's why it was such a big deal, a 10-year partnership deal with the Southern Conference. So they're coming back. They're bringing their championship events back to here, to the city of Asheville.
They are, and they're entrusting other events with us. Back in November, we hosted the SoCon volleyball tournament for the first time. And I remember, we just saw the 2 police escorts, the teams coming in. That's something that we provide that kind of gives that championship feel that both teams just came in. We did that for the girls this year, and the parents were crying. That I remember, or the final, the girls from Wofford, the parents saying, "You guys deserve this. This is what you get when this is." And I remember the coaches saying, "You guys really provide team hosts." And as you know, we do that on the men's end. Each team has 2 hosts. They're like local concierges, local feet on the ground that assist the team if they need anything, or if the bus driver gets lost, hey, that's the way you get back to the hotel. Or if the game goes into overtime, what places are still open, they can answer those questions. So it's providing things like that, for the coaches, the players. You want that experience to be enjoyable. And remember, only 2 teams are going to walk away winning this thing. So that's going to leave a whole lot of people disappointed, heartbroken, careers coming, sometimes, professions coming to an end, as we saw earlier today.
That's right.
But, so we want them to have that great lasting experience here in Asheville and want to keep coming back. So that's the goal.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, you guys do a great job with it.
Thank you.
No question about it. Okay, you picked ETSU and Furman in the final. Can we get a prediction from you?
Well, like I said, I know it's going to be close because it always is. and Furman fans remember the heartache from 3 years ago, and then they remember the redemption 2 years ago. We're going to have a new champion because we haven't had a repeat champion back-to-back in 10 years. I think Wofford was the last to do it. So we're going to crown a new champion. And I'll tell you what, Furman got healthy down the stretch, played their basketball coming in. ETSU was kind of running away with things early, and they beat Furman twice, right?
They did.
They beat them at home and on the road. But I saw a team in Furman that the last 2 games ended strongly. They shot the eyes out of the basketball from 3-point range, probably 80% in the last 5 minutes of the last 2 games. I think it's close, guys. I told you who was going to be here. You're putting me on the spot now. Who's going to win?
I'm going to put you on the spot.
I need to run to Harris Cherokee Casino over in Cherokee if this happens, but I kind of think the Paladins are going to hit a key shot late and win this thing.
There you go. That could be very prophetic. That is for certain. And if that does happen, then I'm getting in touch with you for my March Madness bracket
and financial advice. I'm here for whatever you need.
Right. Exactly.
Jack of all
Chris does it all. That's right. Yes. That is Chris Smith, president of the Asheville Sports Commission. As we continue our college game day version of SoCon Fast Break, as we are broadcasting live here at the 2026 Ingalls SoCon Basketball Championships. Stay tuned. Much more right after this. Okay, we are back live here at the 2026 Ingalls SoCon Basketball Championship as we have our college game day version of SoCon Fast Break. Hit that subscribe button if you're watching, because we know it's easy. It doesn't cost you anything. And this way you'll be able to have all of the SoCon Hoops content from SoCon Fast Break. Richmond Weaver joined by Darren Angel as we get ready for tip-off time, 7 p.m. The number 1 seed ETSU Buccaneers taking on the number 6 seed Furman Paladins in a matchup that I do think, as we just had Chris Smith, president of Asheville Sports Commission, on talking about a close game, this does seem to be one of those type of matchups that, regardless of how the teams are playing, it's going to come down to the wire.
Yeah, I have a sneaking suspicion that it is going to be a tight one, and I don't think that's a blow anyone's mind moment. As Chris mentioned, the amount of the last time there wasn't a close game was a long time ago. I think, what did he say, 7 years? It's been within 7 points or less, or
That's
something
right.
along those lines. So I do think it's going to be tight, and I think the way both these teams play, I think it lends itself to a tight game as well. And frankly, their 2 matchups have kind of ended that way.
That's right. I mean, we saw the overtime game there in Johnson City, Tennessee, where Furman had that game.
Yeah, they did.
Had a 15-point lead and 12-point lead there in the last few minutes of that game, but somehow ETSU was able to grind some things out, got some key turnovers. Furman had 21 turnovers in that game, and that's a backbreaker right there because we know that ETSU, they can turn people over.
Yes.
And that's ultimately what happened yesterday in that win for ETSU against Western Carolina, is that they were able to create some turnovers, especially down the stretch of that game, and that's what allowed them to get some of those extra possessions and limit Western Carolina any type of scoring opportunities, and then Blake Barkley took over.
Man, I mean, I think what we saw in the second half yesterday is really indicative of the level of defense that ETSU is capable of playing, because that was a Western Carolina team that was coming in incredibly hot. As we've talked about ad nauseum, they have 5 or 6 guys that can really put the ball in the basket at any given time. And they absolutely put handcuffs on that Western Carolina offense in the second half. And look, we talked about that. Could they play from behind and come back? Well, if you're going to defend at that level, you can.
That's right. Well, and also ETSU, as we've talked about, they're not built to go on the big 15-0 runs, or even like we saw Wofford against UNCG where they go on an 18-3 run. That's typically not what ETSU does.
Right.
But they can limit you from scoring, and they can go on a 6-0 run, and then 2 minutes later, then it's a 5-0 run. Yep. And it's one of those things that it's almost like death by 1,000 cuts, so to speak, for ETSU. And that's what makes them so difficult, because you think you're putting them away, and the next thing you know, 5 minutes later, you look up and it's a 3-point game.
Yeah, and they make you work so hard offensively. That's, I think, an underrated piece of this. And frankly, I think it's one of the things that really helped the Furman Paladins out against Samford on Friday, on Saturday, was I think they really tired Jaden Booth out. They made him work for everything he got. And you look at this ETSU team, they are physical. They defend very, very well. They can defend on the ball. They can shrink the floor.
They can.
You name it, they can do it defensively. They can turn you over. So the amount of mental energy that you have to expend offensively and physical energy that you have to expend offensively, they can really wear you out.
Oh, they definitely can. And you look at the Furman Paladins and just some of the offensive and defensive efficiency numbers between these two. Offensive efficiency, you got Furman at 111. This is just in conference games. ETSU 116. Defensive efficiency 105 for Furman. ETSU 104.3. What's interesting is we talk about the defense there for ETSU. Don't sleep on Furman. Their effective field goal percentage defense is first in the Southern Conference at 48.2%. So this is a Furman team that they can play defense also.
No, they really can. And look, credit to the guys they've bought in, but Coach Pierre has done a great job leading that defense.
First year under
Coach Ritchie. And like you mentioned, they are the top team in the Southern Conference in effective field goal percentage, which essentially really is, hey, how good's your defense? That's right. That's what effective field goal percentage is.
Yes.
And we've seen that. Like I just mentioned, I thought they did a really good job against Samford on Samford's guards, not just Jaden Booth, but the Norris brothers. And I thought that Dylan Faulkner never really got comfortable on Saturday night. I mean, 12-9 is below average for him. It just is. And then last night, you look at the second half, and yes, I understand UNCG doesn't necessarily have a dynamic offensive group, but I'll tell you what, they were getting the Furman Paladins in rotations in that first half, and they were getting good looks. They were spreading the floor out.
Really good ball movement.
Yeah, they had great ball movement, able to dribble, penetrate. And in the second half, they put the clamps on it. We were sitting on that end of the floor where we had Furman defensively, and it was almost stressful watching that game if I'm for UNCG or I'm on that coaching staff where it was just like, guys, we just cannot get anything going. And we talked about it last night. They held Justin Neely to 5 rebounds for the game.
That's right. Well, and you talk about labor intensive, and that's what was also happening there for UNCG in that game. And everything was going through Justin Neely, and there was no other help until late with Lillian Marville being able to knock down some of those three-pointers. And it was almost, as you were watching it, it was that point where you're like, okay, we know how the story is going to go. They're going to get it to Justin Neely. They're going to he might kick it back out, but it's going right back to him because nobody was confident with their shot. And then so Neely eventually he would have to say, okay, well, I'm going to have to try to drive to the rim and hopefully get fouled if I'm not able to make it. And at some point, he just couldn't continue doing that because when you've got the link there with Cooper Bowser and Charles Johnston, and again, there's only so much they could do against Neely, but it did limit. It got that offense for UNCG just very stagnant because they were solely dependent on Justin Neely, and that was it.
100%. And I think that's a thing to keep an eye on tonight is, look, ETSU is a very good team. I wouldn't necessarily say their top strength is half-court offense. How can the Furman Paladins limit them defensively? How can they contain dribble penetration? And can ETSU really spread them out and create driving angles that puts pressure on the rim where you're getting the Furman Paladins in rotations? And I think if Furman can limit that, they're going to put themselves in a really good position defensively to make ETSU take and make tough shots. And that's going to put pressure on ETSU to say, look, can they find a way to shoot 40% from three again? Because, again, they've been capable, but that's not something that they have done on a consistent basis all year.
Yeah, and you look at ETSU in that game where they did beat Furman in Timmons Arena because Cam Matthews III, he went off, or Milton Matthews the third, I should say. They've got so many different. They've got Cam Morris the third. They've got Brian Taylor the second, and then you've got Milton Matthews the third. So they go the gauntlet in terms of names. And you look at that game though, it was Milton Matthews and his 3-point shooting. They were 12 of 24. They shot 50% from the 3-point line in that game, and that was the ultimate reason why they were able to win that game.
Absolutely, and I think a unique aspect of that game was, if you recall, Blake Barkley did not play.
That's right, yes.
And
that was a foot
certainly
injury.
ETSU is a better basketball team with Blake Barkley in the lineup.
Yes.
That said, it was an interesting dynamic that the Paladins had to deal with because what ETSU ultimately kind of did was they really just kind of spread the floor and hooped with their guards. And they put the Paladins in a really tough situation where they put guys on islands, and they really had to guard one-on-one, and it was hard to play good team defense because ETSU was really able to spread the floor. And it was something that, frankly, understandably so, I don't necessarily think Furman was anticipating having to do. But it really gave ETSU driving lanes, and it opened up a lot for the Bucks in that matchup.
It definitely did, and that's why it'll be interesting to see what happens here. Now, before we start really diving into a little bit more, I do want to talk about the news that did break in the Southern Conference, and that is UNCG Spartans head coach Mike Jones has been informed that they will not be renewing his contract. So ultimately, Mike Jones has been fired there at UNCG.
Yeah.
And this is a guy that is a really good coach. I don't care what anybody says.
Totally
He's got
agree.
a long track record of success. He's had multiple 20-plus win seasons there for UNCG, just not able to have big runs here in Asheville, and especially when they've been a high seed.
Yeah.
And yes, they did win 2 games here, but I think the direction was they weren't really comfortable to see what Mike Jones is going to be able to do in terms of probably going to have another roster turnover and having to bring guys in from the transfer portal. Justin Neely, he's still got a year of eligibility, but who knows? I mean, there's some high majors saying, Justin Neely can come play for us. There is no doubt.
Well, addressing Coach Jones first, we're both former coaches.
Yeah.
I think we're guys like neither of us are the type of guy that's going to call for someone's job on air. With that being the backdrop, I'm a little bit baffled by this decision. Mike Jones has done a great job at UNCG. To your point, he's won 20 games. 3 out of the 5 years he was there?
Exactly.
This year was the only kind of hiccup.
Yeah.
He had a young backcourt, and he had complete turnover. He represents that program well. His teams play hard-nosed, defensive-style basketball that's going to win a lot of games. I get it. He did not have great success in the conference tournament until this year, and they had some really good teams. But I'm a little bit confused. I guess my mindset is, where are you going to go to potentially get better? And I don't mean that as like a backhanded compliment to Coach Jones, because I think he is a great basketball coach.
He is. He's a really good coach.
I'm just confused with the decision because I think he gives you a really good chance to win a lot of basketball games.
15-19 on the season, and they decided to let him go. But you look back even at the non-conference slate, they had a difficult schedule in the non-conference. And I know that's where they didn't really perform. And it seemed that because of that tougher schedule, they couldn't get it going, so to speak. And it took them a little while to find their rhythm in the conference slate of games. And I think there was an aspect of what you talked about with some of the guard play, because when you brought in Justin Neely, I think he exceeded what you thought he could be. There's no doubt. But Donald Whitehead Jr., maybe he didn't live up to some of the expectations that you were hoping in terms of his next step in terms of development coming from Division II and making that transition. But KJ Younger, I think he far exceeded what you might have thought from a freshman coming in. I think Lillian Marville exceeded what you might have thought, but it was a little bit later in the season. And then Noah Norgard, I think, is a really good shooter. Inconsistent at times because, again, he's a freshman. Now, he's got a little bit more experience playing in international coming from Denmark, but I think there's a situation where ultimately it was the guard play that just looked different than what we've seen in Mike Jones's teams, especially on the defensive side, where previously, I mean, it was an automatic situation that UNCG had lockdown defenders on the perimeter, length, athletic guys. He could put, those type of slender, long guys on the top of the press and make life very difficult for people.
Oh yeah, you were in for a rock fight when you were playing UNCG when they had rosters prior to this year. I think you're absolutely right. Unfortunately, the backcourt play really did them in this year, and I think I would have liked to have seen him have the ability to potentially get most of those guys back as sophomores and see what you could do from a player development perspective, because this was the first time that he had younger guys. And frankly, it's a route that you may have to kind of go at this level where you really emphasize your player development and you hope that you can get guys that go under the radar and build them up for a couple of years and win with them, kind of knowing that if they get good enough, they're probably going to leave after a couple of years. But I would have liked to have seen him, and I think he had frankly earned the opportunity to, at a minimum, have one more go-around with a group that, frankly, outside of Neely and Whitehead, is a young group.
Yeah, they're very young, and it will be interesting also to, if we get a little bit more information, how happy was Mike Jones also?
Yeah, look, we're talking about this
that's right
on the surface. We don't necessarily have any inside baseball.
And it wouldn't surprise me if there might have been some underlying feelings of Mike Jones was ready to move on also. So that could be a part of it. But I do think you're going to have a complete roster overhaul, because I don't think there's any way possible Justin Neely is going to stay there. KJ Younger is probably not going to stay. And so it'll be interesting to see how those guys, or where they go and who they bring in, and can they stabilize those players on that roster. All right, turning back our attention to this game as ETSU, the number 1 seed, taking on the number 6 seed Furman Paladins. Tip-off time 7 p.m., and that is going to be on ESPN. So we're hoping for a big crowd here. We're seeing people already filing in. The teams are getting ready. We're getting close to tip-off, and I'm seeing a lot of ETSU. I'm actually seeing a lot of Furman, so it might be like a 50-50 split. Because, again, it's 1 hour away for each of these schools to Asheville. So why wouldn't you come down and watch some of this basketball?
Oh, this is look, we're spoiled. This is going to be a really, really good game.
I know we're basketball junkies.
Basketball.
Yes.
This is great basketball. This place is going to be electric. It's two passionate fan bases that really care about basketball. And I say this as a compliment to the ETSU fans. Man, they get into it.
Oh, ETSU fans definitely get into
trips
it.
To Johnson City. Trips to Johnson City. They would chirp at us pretty good on the bench, and frankly, nothing dirty. But they would chirp. Students and adult fans would be chirping at us pretty hard all game.
There's nothing free in Freedom Hall. No, I can promise you that is for certain. All right, when you look at this matchup, though. Because I think this is going to be an interesting part. We've talked about the turnover side of things. And three-point shooting is going to be paramount for both of these teams. We know for certain there with Furman and how effective they can be from shooting beyond the arc. Now, as a team, though, this year, they've been down. They're only 32% from beyond the arc as a team. But we also know that's throughout the season. If you get on a heater like they have been here in the conference tournament, that's all you need, because now the season is a 3-game season for both of these teams. Can you win 3 games to punch your ticket? So as much as we, though, talk about the Furman side of things, ETSU, it's not their bread and butter to hit threes, but they are going to have to make some threes because they have to pull out that defense to allow Blake Barkley and Cam Morris III get into some action. And I'm interested just to see how Cam Morris III is going to come out.
What's his response?
How his response. He attempted 1 field goal in that game yesterday against Western Carolina, and this is the co-defensive player of the year, and he was not out on the floor for the last 5.5 minutes of that game, and that is surprising. We talked about it post-game yesterday, but my goodness, I mean, Cam Morris, this is your time. You've got to come out there and show who you're made of right now. Let's see some energy. Let's see some effort. This is it. Season's over after this.
100%. And among many other reasons why you need him, you 100% need his interior presence on the defensive end of the floor tonight. 1 is a rim protector, 2 to guard one of the very good bigs for Furman, and that front line is large for Furman.
And how is he going to defend the pick and roll?
Yeah. And that is one thing that I think ETSU did a really good job. And it was, ironically, it was one of the first times I'd seen it all conference season in Johnson City. I thought Coach Savage did a really good job of extending their defense out and really making life difficult for Alex Wilkins. And I thought they did a good job in ball screen action and in the dribble handoffs, where they made it very difficult for Alex Wilkins. And as a result, he did turn the ball over 11 times there. And look, Cam Morris is a huge piece of any sort of that dribble handoff or ball screen action, because he's going to be involved in a lot of those.
Yes.
And they absolutely need him to be disruptive out there tonight.
They have to have him. He's got to be out on the court.
Yeah.
There's no doubt. And even Alan Struthers, he only played 7 minutes. Yeah. And I was wondering, I didn't get a chance to talk to Brooke Savage about it, the head coach for ETSU, but I did talk to him earlier, and they feel confident. They're high energy right now.
Yeah.
And I did see Alan Struthers out there warming up, practicing. And so I was worried, was there some type of injury that we didn't know about with Alan Struthers? But it didn't seem that. I think it was more just a coach's decision at the time against Western Carolina.
Without being in that huddle, I think it was kind of something where, look, we were struggling with this lineup. We kind of found something that clicked. I know it's unorthodox. I know it's not my normal guys, but gosh darn it, this is working right now, and we just have to figure out a way to win this game. So we're going to ride with this group that we've got out there. And look, I think that's what makes great coaches great, is they can feel out their roster. And look, do you ever want to be in a scenario where one of your best players, if not your best all-around player, is on the bench for the better part of the game? Certainly not.
No.
But if you can feel out and get a feel for your team and just say, look, he doesn't have it tonight for whatever reason that might be, and I found some guys and I found a lineup that works, I think that's where a lot of guys
There you go. Your Bucks fans already talking. That's right.
They start to kind of, that's where elite coaches separate themselves, when they can feel out a different lineup that says, look, this is conference tournament time. We just need to get a W here. We don't care how it happens.
Yes, that's right. And that's where you've got to have your team that believes in that. And as we had Blake Barkley on post-game after the game, and he was, after that win, I should say, and he was talking about, hey, everybody just believes in everybody.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter who is out there. It matters that we're working as a collective unit. And, you know, some days it's going to be Milton Matthews. Some days it's going to be Cam Morris. Some days it's going to be Jordan McCollum, or it's going to be Brian Taylor II, whoever it might be. It's who does Brooks Savage trust? And it seems like he trusts everybody on that roster right now, as far as the guys getting valuable minutes.
100%. And you bring up an excellent point. What has been one of the main calling cards for the ETSU Buccaneers this year? It's been their depth and their balance, right? I mean, they didn't really have a guy that you could point to that says, yeah, this guy's in player of the year running. And that's not a knock against them. That's because they just had such good balance, call it 1 through 8, 1 through 9, that could get it done on any given night.
Yeah, and that's why they were able to win the regular season because of balance and consistency, and that carried them through to the number 1 seed. I do think Blake Barkley can be an X factor, and it's easy to say. I know it's an understatement. It's obvious. I get all of that, but we saw what he was able to do. In essence, he won the game for ETSU. Yeah. Now, their defense really stepped up. But it was the offensive side where they couldn't get anything in terms of a rhythm going. But it's Blake Barkley who scored 11 straight points to end the game there for ETSU, and that is impressive right there. I mean, he was the one-man machine, and especially being aggressive, taking it right at Samuel Dada, and Dada had no answer there, being able to guard Blake Barkley.
Yeah, and I look to a matchup, who does Furman put on Blake Barkley? Do they put Charles Johnson on Blake Barkley? Do they put Cooper Bowser on Barkley? Or do they potentially have a little bit of a different lineup where maybe can you put a guy like Cole Bowser on him and maybe go a little bit smaller, but have a better ability to guard Blake Barkley in space, where I think Blake Barkley is at his best is when he can face you up. And he has a little bit of room in space to play with. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Paladins come out and match up against Blake Barkley here.
Yeah, and for Furman, again, it's easy for them to focus on the three-point shot, and I do get that. But you also have to remember, from a 2-point field goal percentage, Furman is one of the best. I mean, they lead the Southern Conference, and it's almost one of those things where, hey, if you're not able to connect early on, focus on the interior. I mean, that is such a strength for them, and that doesn't have to mean that you're going through Cooper Bowser, because as great as Bowser is, he has his skill sets that he's the best at, and posting up on the low block and being able to drop a shoulder, turn, that's not probably what you're going to get out of Cooper Bowser, but he can be that guy that you're lobbing to. He can work in that pick and roll like nobody's business, but it's also, can Furman look at opportunities, get Alex Wilkins 2 feet in the paint, those paint touches, and create shots that way?
Yeah, and I think that's really what ultimately got them going in the second half last night. It wasn't that they all of a sudden just started throwing up threes, and they just started dropping. It was Alex Wilkins got going, got advantages, and got a couple easy lobs to Cooper Bowser. It got the Furman Paladin fans into the game more.
Yes,
I think it loosened up the Furman Paladins, and there was a sense of maybe an exhale, a sense of, hey, we're okay. We're going to be able to figure this out. And then once they started putting pressure on the rim, then it started opening up outside. Alex hit a couple big shots. Edrin Bronson hit a couple big ones.
Huge three-pointer from the corner for Bronson.
Asa Thomas hit a really big one. Only took 2 shots all game, and his three was one of the biggest ones of their run.
It eventually put Furman ahead.
Yeah.
Now, it went back and forth for a few minutes, but that was at least that point where, okay, we got over the hump. Yeah. We made the comeback. We erased that deficit.
And you've talked about it for a while, about your desire to see Furman get downhill and put pressure on the rim more. I look to see can we do that initially tonight? Can that be what we really kind of go to and almost force to a degree within reason of getting some easy ones early, so that then it allows us to be able to, they have to really focus and tighten that defense up in the interior. And now you can start getting some of that Princeton action. And now you can get started. When Alex Wilkins gets downhill, you can start to spray. And when you start to spray and hit a couple threes, to your point, like you just said, now you start to get cutters open, and that offense really opens up. So I'm curious to see if they really put an emphasis on trying to maybe get some lobs going early.
Oh, I would think so.
At the rim. To kind of just loosen up, as opposed to really relying on the three-point shot early.
Yes, because they struggled in the first half against UNCG, shooting from the perimeter there, 12.5% from beyond the arc. And you definitely don't want to have that type of start. But they were able to overcome it, because there in the second half, they shot lights out from beyond the arc. But I think this is one of those things in terms of Furman, you're going to want to hunt some of those advantages and push the pace to a certain degree. You don't have to go out there, and it's not going to be run and gun type of style like Loyola Marymount. I'm not saying anything like that, but you are going to have to try to get out into transition.
Certainly.
And because you don't want ETSU to be able to drop back and get set defensively.
No.
Because they're just too good.
They've illustrated their capabilities all year long.
They are.
And really showed it in the second half last night.
They definitely did. And that's what Western Carolina couldn't get out in any type of transition opportunities. So ETSU sat back, allowed them to come down the court. And then it was, okay, now we're going to get hands in the passing lines. We're going to deflect, or we're going to strip you once you get the ball in the interior, those type of things. Get some key blocks. So we had Blake Barkley with a huge block down the stretch there against Cord Stansberry. And so it's those type of things that I think Furman's going to really need to do. Again, getting out in some transition opportunities. And if you are going to utilize the three-point shot, get to the corners. Because Bob Ritchie, I mean, he is adamant about making sure get guys down into the corners. And those guys live from beyond the arc in those corners.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that you're kind of talking about right now that I want to see from the Furman Paladins to be able to get out in transition is I want to see them just annihilate the defensive glass. Contested twos and really get on the defensive glass, because if they can get on the defensive glass, that's going to allow them to get out into transition. Certainly, do you want to generate some turnovers? 100%. But if you can really get on the glass defensively, limit second chance opportunities for the Bucks, and get out and run before ETSU has an opportunity to set up that half-court defense, you're going to put yourself in some really advantageous opportunities. And I think getting on the glass allows you to have controlled transition.
Yeah, it definitely does.
You can push the pace, but you're not in a situation where you're going to put yourselves in disadvantaged situations, or you're going to force stuff.
Yeah, because you can survey where the advantages are.
Correct.
And Alex Wilkins is a master at that, even at a young age.
100%. But it still allows you to play at a faster pace. So even if you don't get something going to the rim or a three in transition, you still can potentially get something going, call it 5 or 10 seconds into the shot clock, potentially before ETSU is really able to sit down into that half court. I think that first 10 seconds of the shot clock is going to be interesting to see, because once you get past that, that's when maybe the 7-second mark, but the 7 to 10 second mark, you're going to be able to see ETSU to be able to start to really sit down and guard in the half court.
Okay, if you're looking at this matchup, but what are some of the keys for you?
And look, we can go into the weeds and we can go a little bit in depth, but for Furman, I honestly really think it's two things. I think they need to make 10 to 12 threes, and I think if they can make 10 to 12 threes, they have to take care of the basketball. If they take care of the basketball and they make 10 to 12 threes, I think that they're going to be able to play good enough defense that ETSU is just not going to be able to put enough points on the board. So can we certainly talk about other pieces of it? I mean, we kind of have with the rebounding, but I think those to me are the two big pieces for the Furman Paladins to win tonight. And I think if they do those two things, I think they're going to win this game. Conversely, for ETSU, I think that they absolutely have to guard the three-point line.
They definitely do.
If they guard the three-point line, it's going to make things really difficult for Furman, because then you're kind of getting into a 2-point for 2-point type matchup, which I think the edge goes to ETSU, because you're going to have a lower scoring game. And the other piece of that for ETSU is, I think, look, you have to turn Furman over. We've talked about it. Furman has really struggled at times turning the ball over. As much as we believe in Alex Wilkins, and as much as he's not a freshman anymore, this is a big moment for him. And I think he has proved himself up to the challenge night in and night out. But I think, can you really extend your pressure and make it difficult to not let him beat you? And that's the last piece I'd add of kind of what I think for ETSU here. Don't let Alex Wilkins beat you. He is really, really good. In my opinion, he's the most talented player in the league. And he's a guy that can do it in a lot of different ways. He can score at all three levels, and he can create opportunities for other guys, whether it's at the rim or whether it's finding guys by spraying. So to me, if I'm Coach Savage and I'm that ETSU staff, you don't want to have it consume you. But look, no disrespect to anybody else on that roster, because the Furman Paladins have a deep roster. but somebody else other than Alex Wilkins is going to beat me tonight. I'm not going to let him go for 20 to 25 tonight, because if he does, they're winning the game.
How much can you deny Alex Wilkins the ball so he can't even get into some of those actions? That's going to be a big part of the defensive strategy.
Those other guys are going to have to beat ETSU. They're just going to.
They are. And so who can that be? Can it be an Asa Thomas? Can it be a Tom House? Or can you have Charles Johnson, who has struggled from beyond the arc? And I know that is a weapon for him, and that's what makes that front court dangerous, because Cooper Bowser's not going to shoot from the perimeter.
Right.
But Charles Johnston can. And if he gets hot, if he can hit 3 or 4 threes, watch out for that offense with Furman.
That is huge. I mean, what do you look to be able to see where Furman potentially has an advantage here?
Well, I do think there is an opportunity from the perimeter game. I do think that you can get Asa Thomas going, and I would do everything possible to get him, because, again, the strategy I would firmly believe is going to be to try to limit Alex Wilkins at all costs.
Yeah.
And so you'll live by the situation in terms of, if Furman's going to be able to beat you, can somebody like Asa Thomas knock down some threes? So if that happens, I do think that could be an advantage. But I do think Furman has the advantage of trying to pushing the pace. I do think they're better equipped for that. That's something that is traditional to Bob Ritchie's system. And so they know the system, especially at this time of the year, all of that. And so I think both of these teams came into this game with tough games in the semifinals. And I know ETSU almost was in a situation where we talked about it. I mean, it was emotional. They somehow survived. And so they've got a lot of confidence coming into this game. I think it comes down to, when you're looking at it, for Furman, yes, the three-point shot, 38%. If they can shoot above 38%, I think they can win this game, or they'll be putting themselves in a great position. Also, I think for Furman to hit 38%, they have to be moving the ball and having some great distribution and being able to get multiple guys involved. And so I think another key stat to look for is the number of assists that Furman can get. If Furman can get 12 assists in this game, even if they can get 10 plus assists in this game, that's going to put them in a primetime spot, because that means the ball is moving.
Yes.
Guys are getting open, and obviously they're making shots at that point. But I think that's another key factor, including they can't turn the ball over.
That's a great point, right? Because if their assist numbers are high, and this is not a blow anyone's mind moment, but if their assist numbers are high, it means that the ball's popping and the ball's moving.
That's right. It's
moving.
What
that means then, from a defensive perspective for ETSU, is that they're not controlling the defensive side of the floor like they want to. Because part of what they do is they play so physical, and they play such a kind of get up under you type style of defense that it takes you out of your offensive rhythm. And so, to your point, if the Furman Paladins are getting those assist numbers up, it probably means they're playing pretty effective offense.
No doubt. And I think for ETSU, you're going to have to not only have a high number of turnovers for Furman, but you're going to have to create those turnovers with the steals. I mean, they have a 12% steal rate, so they're very effective being able to do that. So I think that's a key part of it. I'm also interested just in terms of experience, because ETSU is an experienced team, and Furman's one of the younger teams in all of college basketball, and one of the youngest in the Southern Conference. So again, I know here at this time of the year, though, they've got a full season of experience. I get that. But ETSU has veteran guys who have been in big moments, big pressure situations. And has Furman, do they have that same type of mentality in terms of experience and understanding what some of these moments are? We know for sure Bob Ritchie, he can try to communicate that. But as you know, there's no way to replicate what a final game feeling is like. And then especially when it comes down to the last 3 minutes, and the pressure is magnified even more, and you're standing at the free throw line, it's those guys who have some of that experience that might be able to shine a little bit more.
Yeah, and to that point, I think the start of this game is going to be really important.
No doubt.
Who can get off to the better start, kind of get that proverbial sigh of relief and get going? Because, if I'm the Furman Paladins, yes, they have spurt ability, but I don't want to see them get behind too much, because I think if ETSU is able to get up on you early, they really dig in defensively, and they're able to focus so much on that side of the floor that certainly do they need to continue to put the ball in the basket, but they're really able to dig in defensively, and they can exert much of their energy on that end of the floor. Whereas if Furman is able to get out to a quick lead, now you're in a situation where ETSU not only really has to lock in defensively, but they're having to probably do some things that they're not always accustomed to having to do by getting down as double figures.
Yeah, no question about it. All right, so when I look at this matchup, and I love spurtability, you're bringing out Clark Kellogg there. Yes, a great one at Ohio State. Okay, and I'm looking at this matchup, though. I do think ETSU has just enough on the defensive side and will be able to make some big shots, and I think Cam Morris is going to come out and have a big game, but it's going to be somebody like a Jordan McCullum who's going to be the X factor for ETSU, and I think this will come to a fantastic finish.
Yeah,
but I do think ETSU is going to be able to pull it out, be able to walk away with the crown here in 2026, and I think this is going to be more in the game around 72-ish, and that favors ETSU more so than it does Furman.
Absolutely. I mean, if the game is in the high 60s, low 70s, I think you're looking at ETSU probably cutting down the nets. You make excellent points, and I can absolutely see a scenario where that happens. I've said it all year, and I got to stand by it. I think when healthy, the Furman Paladins have the deepest roster in this league. They are fully healthy.
I think they have the best roster in this league.
Yeah.
I really do, because of the front court and the back court. We didn't know what Alex Wilkins was going to be at the beginning of the season. Now we do. And so, yes, I wholeheartedly agree that this Furman team is very talented. I just think there's something about the experience in the defense that will push ETSU to the title.
Absolutely. And I think that this Furman team is kind of hitting their stride. You know, the last two games, they've shot 40% or better from three.
Oh, lights out for them.
We have not given them enough credit defensively for how good they've been defensively all year. They've kind of gone under the radar, and it's maybe been a little bit more of a bend, not break mentality, but they have been really, really good defensively. And so I think they're going to be able to do that tonight. And I just think that there's something about them getting into a rhythm, and they're fully healthy. They've been fully healthy for probably almost a month now. I just think that they're going to be able to knock down those 10 to 12 threes, and they're going to be able to control the pace a little bit. And I do think this is going to be a back and forth game. I think there's going to be some runs. But I'm going to ride with the Furman Paladins to cut down the nets and go to their second NCAA tournament in the last 4 years.
Yeah, there we go. Well, you're wearing your ring.
I am wearing the ring.
2022, 23, so I totally understand that. And if it does happen, it'll be back-to-back years that a number 6 seed has won the Southern Conference basketball championships. All right. That is it for us here. Pregame, our version of College Game Day for SoCon Fast Break. The number 1 seed, ETSU Buccaneers, taking on the number 6 seed, Furman Paladins. Tip-off time is in about 30 minutes on ESPN. Hey, stay tuned to SoCon Fast Break on YouTube, as we'll be back right after the game, post-game reactions, as we get ready to crown a champion here at the 2026 Ingalls SoCon Basketball Championships. Thanks for watching. Until next time, may all your jumpers hit nothing but the bottom of the net.